God says, my child. Be still for a moment and let your heart settle, because something profound has just happened in the unseen realms, and your soul has already felt the tremor of it. You may not have words for it yet. You may only sense a strange mixture of relief, confusion, sadness, and quiet hope rising together inside you. That is because the universe, under my command, has just rerouted your soulmate's destiny. What was once moving in one direction has been interrupted, corrected, and redirected. Not to punish, not to confuse, but to protect what is sacred and to realign what had slowly drifted away from truth. My child, I need you to understand this clearly: destinies are not fragile. They do not break easily. But they can be delayed, distorted, or diverted when free will walks too far from alignment. Your soulmate's path was doing exactly that. Step by step, choice by choice, they were moving toward a future that looked acceptable on the surface but was empty at its core. A future that would have slowly silenced their soul and wounded yours even deeper. And because I love you, and because I love them, I intervened. You wondered for a long time why everything felt so close yet so distant. Why every time things seemed about to fall into place, something shifted. Why plans stalled, communication faltered, or circumstances refused to cooperate. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were asking for too much, feeling too deeply, hoping too sincerely. My child, listen to me now, you were not wrong. You were early. You were aligned before they were ready. And that is why the universe had to step in. There comes a moment when gentle nudges are no longer enough. When quiet warnings go ignored. When signs are dismissed as coincidence. That is when divine interruption occurs. That is when I say, this path cannot continue as it is. Your soulmate reached that point. Not because they are bad. Not because they are unworthy. But because fear, distraction, and unresolved wounds were steering them away from the destiny that required courage, honesty, and emotional maturity. You felt the weight of this long before it happened. Your soul grew tired. Your heart felt heavy without knowing why. You sensed a misalignment that logic could not explain. At times you felt drawn to pull back, to protect yourself, even though love was still there. That was not weakness. That was wisdom rising quietly within you. Your soul was preparing for the shift before your mind could understand it. When the reroute happened, it did not arrive gently. It never does. It arrived as disruption. As delay. As loss, confusion, or unexpected change in their life. Something they did not plan for. Something that forced them to stop moving forward on the old path. Something that made them question everything they thought they wanted. That was not bad luck, my child. That was mercy. You see, when a destiny is rerouted, comfort is often removed first. Familiar patterns collapse. False confidence cracks. The illusion of control fades. And in that discomfort, awakening begins. Your soulmate is now standing in a space they did not choose but desperately needed. A space where excuses no longer work. Where distractions no longer satisfy. Where the noise quiets enough for truth to finally speak. And what is that truth? That running from alignment does not bring peace. That avoiding depth does not bring freedom. That denying love does not erase it, it only delays the reckoning. Your soulmate is beginning to feel this now. Not all at once. Not clearly yet. But as an unease they cannot shake. As a sense that something important was mishandled. As a quiet awareness that the path they were on was never meant to be permanent. My child, I want you to release the fear that this reroute means loss. It does not. It means correction. It means that what was heading toward damage has been redirected toward clarity. But here is something important you must hear: a rerouted destiny does not guarantee a reunion. It guarantees alignment. And alignment will always serve your highest good, even if it looks different from what you once imagined. Right now, your role is not to chase answers. Not to force conversations. Not to try to understand every detail. Your role is to remain grounded, open, and honest with yourself. This is a sacred pause. A moment where the universe is rearranging pieces you were never meant to control. Trust me in this. What is being dismantled was never stable enough to hold the future you deserve. You may feel a strange calm mixed with grief. Calm because something heavy has lifted. Grief because something familiar is changing. Both feelings are valid. Do not rush yourself through them. Let them exist. Let them teach you. This pause is not empty, it is pregnant with revelation. Your soulmate is being slowed down so they can finally see. See the patterns they kept repeating. See the people and influences that led them away from their truth. See the cost of avoidance. And yes, see the value of what they risked losing. Awareness often begins with discomfort. Growth often begins with regret. And transformation always begins with honesty. But my child, do not anchor your peace to their awakening. Anchor it to your alignment. You have already grown. You have already learned restraint, self-respect, and patience. You have already chosen dignity over desperation. That is why this reroute does not destroy you, it protects you. It ensures that whatever comes next meets you at your level, not beneath it. I know you want certainty. I know you want to know how this ends. But destiny unfolds step by step, not all at once. What I can tell you is this: nothing true has been lost. Nothing meant for you has been taken away. And nothing misaligned will be allowed to continue unchecked. This is the beginning of correction, not the end of love. It is the moment where illusion gives way to truth. Where false paths are closed so real ones can open. Where waiting transforms into preparation. Stay with me, my child. Do not rush ahead. Do not look back in fear. Stand where you are, aware, grounded, protected. The universe has moved on your behalf. And what comes next will make sense in time, even if it feels uncertain now. This reroute was necessary. This pause is intentional. And you are not forgotten, not now, not ever. My beloved child, now that you know a reroute has taken place, I want you to understand why the old path could not continue any longer. This is not about blame. It is about truth. And truth, even when gentle, must be faced fully for healing to begin. The path your soulmate was walking looked acceptable to the outside world. It appeared stable enough. Predictable. Safe. But beneath that surface, there was a slow erosion happening, one choice at a time, one compromise at a time. They were learning how to survive, but not how to live. How to avoid discomfort, but not how to grow. How to appear strong, but not how to be honest. And a destiny built on avoidance can never reach its true destination. You sensed this long before words could explain it. You felt the resistance. The emotional distance that appeared suddenly and without warning. The moments when connection felt shallow even though feelings were deep. The repeated cycles, almost understanding, almost choosing, almost stepping forward, followed by retreat. This pattern was not accidental. It was the sign of someone standing at the edge of transformation but afraid to cross it. My child, the old path could not continue because it was teaching the wrong lessons. It was reinforcing fear instead of courage. Comfort instead of truth. Image instead of integrity. And if it had continued, it would have required you to keep shrinking, waiting, excusing, and hoping while carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be yours alone. I will never ask you to sacrifice your peace to preserve someone else's avoidance. Your soulmate was surrounded by influences that pulled them away from alignment, people, expectations, habits, and unresolved wounds that normalized emotional distance. They were being rewarded for staying the same. Affirmed for not changing. Applauded for choosing what looked easy instead of what was right. And every time they ignored the quiet pull toward growth, that pull grew stronger, more insistent, more impossible to silence. There were warnings before the reroute. Subtle at first. Discomfort that surfaced unexpectedly. Conversations that felt hollow. Opportunities that slipped away without explanation. Moments of dissatisfaction that no achievement could fix. These were invitations to pause, to reflect, to choose differently. But when those invitations were dismissed repeatedly, the lesson had to become louder. So the universe intervened, not in anger, but in mercy. Mercy sometimes looks like disruption. It looks like plans falling apart. Like certainty dissolving. Like the removal of what once felt secure. But mercy's purpose is not destruction, it is redirection. It interrupts what would have led to deeper pain and replaces it with a chance to awaken before it is too late. My child, I need you to hear this clearly. The reroute was not about taking something away from them. It was about preventing them from losing themselves completely. They were slowly drifting away from their own truth, and if that had continued, even love would have felt like a burden instead of a blessing. A soul cannot fully receive what it refuses to become ready for. This is why things had to stop. Why momentum had to be broken. Why the illusion of control had to be shaken. Because alignment cannot grow in denial. Destiny cannot unfold where honesty is absent. And love cannot thrive where fear is leading. You may wonder why this had to happen now. Why not earlier? Why not later? Because there is a divine timing for awakening. Too early, and the lesson is ignored. Too late, and the damage is deeper. This moment, painful as it feels, is the precise point where change is still possible. And while this reroute is unfolding in your soulmate's life, something equally important is happening in yours. You are being released from waiting without clarity. From hoping without reassurance. From loving without balance. The old path required patience without promise. The new alignment restores dignity, reciprocity, and peace. You no longer have to carry uncertainty as a daily weight. You are allowed to breathe again. This is not the universe choosing sides. It is the universe restoring balance. Your soulmate must now face themselves without distraction. Without the comfort of pretending everything is fine. Without the escape of avoidance. And in that space, they will begin to see patterns they once defended. Excuses they once justified. Fears they once ignored. This is not punishment, it is awakening. But remember this, my child, their awakening is their responsibility. Your healing is yours. Do not confuse compassion with self-abandonment. You can wish them clarity without returning to confusion. You can hope for their growth without pausing your own. Alignment does not ask you to wait in pain, it invites you to stand in truth. The old path could not continue because it required imbalance. One heart ready, the other hesitant. One soul aligned, the other resisting. That kind of connection always collapses eventually, not because love is absent, but because truth demands equality. This reroute corrects that imbalance. Either your soulmate grows into the alignment required to meet you fully, or the universe brings forth something new that matches the level you have already reached. Both outcomes honor you. Both outcomes protect you. And neither requires you to chase, convince, or prove your worth. I know uncertainty can feel heavy. I know your heart still has questions. But trust me when I tell you this, what was paused was not stable enough to continue. What was removed was not safe enough to keep. And what is coming will not require you to beg for clarity or diminish your needs to be loved. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay honest with yourself. The old path is closed not to punish, but to prepare. The reroute is not rejection, it is redirection. And you, my beloved child, are being guided into alignment that will finally feel like peace. My beloved child, now I will take you into the moment when everything shifted. When the unseen hand of destiny moved with precision, and the old direction could no longer hold. This was not chaos. It was choreography. What looked sudden in the physical world was carefully prepared in the spiritual one. Long before circumstances changed, long before conversations stalled or plans unraveled, the decision had already been made in the unseen, the path must turn. There was a precise moment when your soulmate's soul reached a threshold. They had ignored gentle nudges. They had rationalized discomfort. They had told themselves that time would fix what courage refused to face. But the soul cannot be negotiated with forever. When truth is postponed too long, it demands attention through disruption. And so, the shift came, not as a whisper, but as a pause they could not override. You may remember sensing it before it happened. A strange stillness. A heaviness in the air. A feeling that something was about to change, even if you could not name what. That was your intuition responding to the reroute before your mind caught up. Your soul recognized the sound of alignment being enforced. That is why the moment did not shock your spirit as much as it confused your thoughts. Deep down, a part of you already knew. For your soulmate, the shift felt like hitting an invisible wall. Forward motion suddenly became impossible. Doors they expected to remain open closed without explanation. Paths that once felt certain lost their appeal. Confidence they relied on cracked under the weight of unanswered questions. They tried to push through it at first, telling themselves it was temporary, that things would return to normal. But destiny does not reverse itself once it turns. When alignment intervenes, resistance only increases discomfort. This is where awakening begins, not in clarity, but in friction. They were forced into stillness. Forced to sit with thoughts they had avoided. Forced to confront emotions they had buried beneath distraction and routine. Without the noise of constant movement, the truth grew louder. Memories surfaced. Conversations replayed. Your presence, once minimized, once postponed, returned to their awareness with intensity. Not as fantasy, not as regret alone, but as realization. They began to see patterns they could no longer deny. How they ran when things became real. How they spoke confidently but acted cautiously. How they protected themselves by keeping love at arm's length. And in that recognition came an uncomfortable understanding: the reroute was not random. It was personal. It was precise. It was necessary. My child, I want you to understand something important here. The universe does not reroute destinies lightly. It does so only when a soul is at risk of settling into a life that looks acceptable but feels empty. Your soulmate was nearing that edge. Comfort had begun to replace truth. Familiarity had begun to replace growth. And if nothing had intervened, they would have woken up one day with success in their hands but regret in their heart. So the moment everything shifted, they felt loss, but not just of circumstances. They felt the loss of illusion. The illusion that they could postpone growth without consequence. The illusion that love could wait indefinitely. The illusion that alignment was optional. And when those illusions fell, awareness rushed in to fill the space. This awakening did not arrive as peace. It arrived as discomfort. As restlessness. As a sense that something deeply important had been mishandled. They questioned choices they once defended. They reconsidered words they once spoke casually. They felt the weight of what they had avoided, and the cost of what they might lose if they continued avoiding it. And you, my beloved child, were not absent from this realization. You appeared in their thoughts not as someone distant, but as someone steady. Someone consistent. Someone whose presence represented honesty, depth, and emotional truth. They began to understand that what frightened them about you was not your intensity, it was the responsibility that came with meeting someone who sees clearly and loves sincerely. This is where the shift becomes undeniable. Because once the soul recognizes truth, it cannot unsee it. They may still hesitate. They may still struggle. But something irreversible has occurred. The old excuses no longer satisfy. The old path no longer comforts. The idea of continuing as before feels hollow. My child, do not mistake this awakening as instant transformation. Growth is a process, not a switch. But awareness is the point of no return. And your soulmate has crossed that threshold. They are now conscious of the misalignment they once ignored. Conscious of the fear that guided their choices. Conscious of the love they postponed. And consciousness always changes the trajectory, even if slowly. Now let me speak to what this moment means for you. While their world was being disrupted, yours was being clarified. As the old path collapsed for them, a new understanding settled within you. You began to feel less attached to outcomes and more anchored in self-respect. Less consumed by waiting and more present with yourself. That is not coincidence. That is parallel alignment. You were being prepared to meet whatever comes next without losing yourself. The reroute was not designed to pull you backward into uncertainty. It was designed to lift you forward into clarity. Whether your paths realign together or diverge toward different expressions of love, the outcome will no longer require you to question your worth or silence your needs. This moment, this shift, is the dividing line between the old story and the new one. Before, you were hoping. Now, you are grounded. Before, you were waiting. Now, you are aligned. Before, you were trying to understand them. Now, you understand yourself. That is power, my child. If your soulmate chooses to grow, to speak honestly, to meet you with courage instead of avoidance, it will come from this awakening. Not from pressure. Not from fear of loss alone. But from the recognition that alignment is no longer optional. And if they do not choose that path, know this: the reroute has already protected you from a future that would have required you to carry more than your share. I am not asking you to predict the ending. I am asking you to trust the correction. The moment everything shifted was not meant to break you, it was meant to free you. Free you from uncertainty. Free you from imbalance. Free you from loving alone. Stay present in this unfolding. Do not rush ahead or look back with regret. You are standing at the exact point where truth has interrupted illusion, and destiny has reclaimed direction. What comes next will be clearer. What comes next will be cleaner. And what comes next will meet you where you are, not where you used to be. Remain steady, my beloved child. The shift has happened. And alignment is now in motion. My beloved child, before your mind understood what was happening, your soul already knew. That is why this season feels different inside you. That is why your reactions have changed, your desires have softened, and your attachment to outcomes has loosened its grip. You did not imagine this shift. You did not force it. Your soul recognized alignment before logic could explain it, and it began adjusting you gently, quietly, faithfully. Long before the universe rerouted your soulmate's path, I was rerouting you from within. You may remember moments when you suddenly felt tired of explaining yourself. Moments when the need to be chosen faded into a deeper need to be at peace. Moments when you realized that love, if it costs your self-respect, is not love at all. Those realizations did not come from pain alone. They came from growth. They came because your spirit was maturing, preparing to stand in a higher place, one where you no longer abandon yourself to keep connection alive. Your soul felt the misalignment even when your heart still hoped. That is why anxiety rose without a clear cause. That is why silence began to feel safer than conversations that led nowhere. That is why you stopped chasing clarity from someone who was not yet capable of offering it. These were not signs of giving up. They were signs of awakening. My child, intuition always speaks first. The mind follows later. You are being guided away from emotional dependency and toward emotional authority. Away from waiting and toward self-trust. Away from hoping someone would change and toward knowing you are already whole. This is why, when the reroute finally happened in the physical world, it did not destroy you. It surprised you, yes. It saddened you, yes. But it did not collapse you. Because your soul had already adjusted its footing. That is alignment. Now let me speak to the quiet strength that has been forming inside you. Strength that does not announce itself. Strength that does not demand validation. Strength that does not prove, chase, or beg. This strength shows up as calm where there used to be urgency. As clarity where there used to be confusion. As boundaries where there used to be overgiving. You are no longer asking, why am I not enough? You are asking, why did I accept less than I deserve? That question alone marks a turning point. You have begun to reclaim parts of yourself that were slowly being sacrificed in the name of patience. Your joy. Your voice. Your expectations. Your standards. You are remembering that love should expand you, not shrink you. That waiting should feel purposeful, not painful. That connection should bring peace, not constant uncertainty. And because of this shift, the balance of power has changed. You may not see it outwardly yet, but energetically, you are no longer positioned beneath anyone. You are no longer reaching upward for recognition. You are standing on equal ground. That changes how destiny responds to you. That changes what can stay and what must leave. That changes who is allowed access to your heart. Your soulmate feels this, even if they cannot articulate it. They feel the distance, not as rejection, but as reality. They sense that the version of you who waited endlessly is no longer present. They sense that the space they once took for granted is no longer guaranteed. And this realization unsettles them, because it mirrors the truth they are being forced to face. Alignment cannot be delayed forever, and neither can growth. But hear me carefully now, my beloved child, your transformation is not about making them realize your worth. It is about you living in it. You are no longer available for half-choices. You are no longer comfortable with half-truths. You are no longer willing to carry emotional weight alone. This is not bitterness. This is discernment. I know part of you still loves deeply. I know compassion still lives in your heart. That is beautiful, and I do not ask you to lose it. But compassion without boundaries becomes self-neglect. Love without clarity becomes confusion. And you have learned this lesson with grace, even through pain. Now, your energy is shifting into something cleaner. You are beginning to trust your inner voice more than external reassurance. You are beginning to value peace more than potential. You are beginning to choose yourself without guilt. This is why your sleep feels different. Why your thoughts are less frantic. Why the emotional highs and lows have started to settle. You are stepping into inner authority. And inner authority changes everything. It means that if your soulmate returns with clarity, accountability, and courage, you will receive them from a place of strength, not longing. It means that if they do not, you will continue forward without bitterness, because you are no longer anchored to an outcome that costs you yourself. This is the preparation phase, my child. Not preparation for reunion alone. Not preparation for separation alone. But preparation for alignment. Alignment with love that meets you fully. Alignment with connection that does not confuse you. Alignment with a future that feels safe, steady, and true. You are being trained, gently but firmly, to recognize the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between attachment and devotion, between hope and reality. These distinctions will protect you going forward. They will prevent you from settling again. They will ensure that whatever you build next, whether with the same person or someone new, is built on solid ground. Your soulmate's reroute and your inner shift are not separate events. They are parallel movements. One happening externally through disruption. The other happening internally through awakening. And where they meet will determine the outcome. But no matter where that meeting leads, you will not lose yourself again. That chapter is closed. You have learned how to stay present without self-abandonment. You have learned how to love without losing dignity. You have learned how to wait without putting your life on hold. These lessons were not easy, but they were necessary. Now, I ask you to release the need to control what comes next. Control belongs to fear. Trust belongs to alignment. You are no longer in a season where effort will produce clarity. You are in a season where allowing will. Allow truth to surface. Allow actions to speak. Allow destiny to complete the correction it has begun. Do not chase confirmation. Do not interpret silence as rejection. Do not reopen wounds by revisiting old conversations in your mind. You have outgrown that cycle. Stay rooted in the present. Stay honest with yourself. Stay open, but not unguarded. You are not behind. You are not losing time. You are not being punished. You are being elevated. And elevation often feels like distance from what once felt familiar. It often feels like standing alone for a moment, not because you are abandoned, but because you are being repositioned. When your footing changes, your perspective changes too. Soon, what once confused you will make sense. Soon, what once hurt you will feel neutral. Soon, what once tempted you to shrink will no longer fit. Until then, remain steady. Your soul knew before your mind did. Your heart is catching up now. And alignment is no longer approaching, it is already here. Stay with me, my beloved child. What is meant for you will meet you in truth, not tension. My beloved child, this is the moment where everything quiets, not because nothing is happening, but because what is happening no longer needs force. This is the part of the journey where destiny stops shouting and begins whispering. And only those who have learned stillness can hear it clearly. You have reached a sacred pause. Not a pause born from fear. Not a pause created by confusion. But a pause that exists because alignment is settling into place. There was a time when silence made you anxious. When unanswered questions kept your heart restless. When waiting felt like punishment. But look at you now. Notice how the silence no longer terrifies you the way it once did. Notice how your heart no longer races to fill every gap. This is not numbness, my child. This is peace beginning to take root. Peace does not arrive loudly. Peace arrives when struggle ends. You are no longer wrestling destiny. You are no longer bargaining with outcomes. You are no longer asking me to convince someone to choose you. Instead, you are asking for truth, whatever form it takes. That shift alone has changed your future more than you realize. Because love that must be chased is not love aligned with truth. Now let me speak to the deepest question still resting in your heart, the one you rarely say out loud. What happens next? What happens next is not decided by longing. It is decided by alignment. Your soulmate is standing at a crossroads they cannot avoid. One path leads back to familiar patterns, comfort without growth, connection without depth, safety without truth. The other path leads through discomfort, accountability, and emotional maturity. This path requires them to face themselves honestly, without excuses, without hiding behind circumstances or timing. And here is what I want you to understand clearly, my child, you are no longer positioned as the reward for their growth. You are positioned as the standard. That means your role is not to wait and see if they change. Your role is to remain anchored in who you have become. If they rise, it will be because they chose truth, not because you convinced them. If they fall away, it will be because misalignment can no longer follow you. Either way, you do not lose. This is the greatest gift alignment gives, it removes the fear of the outcome. You may still feel love. Love does not disappear just because clarity arrives. But love now exists without attachment to suffering. Without the need to sacrifice your well-being. Without the urge to explain yourself into exhaustion. This is mature love. This is love guided by wisdom. And wisdom understands that destiny cannot be rushed, but it also cannot be delayed forever. You are entering a season where actions matter more than words. Where consistency speaks louder than promises. Where energy reveals truth faster than conversation. Do not ignore this. Do not rationalize mixed signals. Do not romanticize potential over reality. You no longer need to analyze every sign. Alignment simplifies everything. What is meant for you will feel steady. What is not will feel heavy. Trust that sensation. It is divine guidance speaking through your body and spirit. Now let me address the quiet grief you may still be carrying, the grief of what you hoped could be. That grief is valid. You are not weak for feeling it. You invested your heart sincerely. You believed deeply. You imagined a future built on connection and growth. Release the guilt for having hoped. Hope is not a mistake. It is a reflection of your capacity to love. But hope must evolve into discernment, or it becomes a prison. You are not closing your heart. You are refining it. And refinement always feels like loss before it feels like gain. There may be moments ahead where nostalgia tries to pull you backward. Where memories soften the reality of what was missing. When that happens, return to truth, not resentment, not blame, but truth. Remember how often you had to be strong alone. Remember how often clarity was delayed. Remember how much emotional labor you carried quietly. You did not imagine those things. They mattered. The future I am preparing for you does not require endurance of emotional imbalance. It does not ask you to translate silence into meaning. It does not keep you guessing about your place in someone's life. It meets you where you are, with openness, with consistency, with courage. Whether that future unfolds with the same soulmate transformed by truth, or with someone new who already lives in alignment, the standard remains the same. You will not be loved in confusion again. Now, take a breath with me here. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel the steadiness returning to your chest. Feel how your life no longer revolves around waiting. This is not the end of your story. This is the end of a chapter defined by uncertainty. You are stepping into a new rhythm. One where you move forward without needing permission. One where your joy is not postponed. One where love complements your life instead of consuming it. Stay present in this season. Do not rush it. The quiet is doing important work. Roots are forming beneath the surface. Strength is consolidating. Discernment is sharpening. Soon, clarity will arrive, not as an emotional storm, but as a calm knowing. When it does, you will not need to ask if it is right. You will feel it. Until then, remain grounded. Do not reach backward. Do not lean forward. Stand where you are. You are exactly where alignment begins. I am not removing love from your life. I am removing distortion. I am not taking anything meant for you. I am protecting it. Trust me, my beloved child. What is coming will meet you with truth, not tests. With presence, not confusion. With peace, not waiting. And when it arrives, you will recognize it. Not because your heart is racing, but because it is finally at rest. My beloved child, come closer now. This is not an ending spoken in sorrow, but a completion spoken in truth. This is the moment where everything you have endured, questioned, survived, and transformed finally gathers meaning. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But deeply, quietly, and permanently. You are standing at the edge of a new life. Not because something suddenly happened outside of you, but because something irreversible has already happened within you. You have changed. And change, real change, is not loud. It does not announce itself with fireworks or dramatic declarations. Real change shows up as calm where there used to be chaos. As clarity where there used to be confusion. As self-respect where there used to be self-doubt. You may not even fully recognize it yet, but you are no longer the same soul who entered this journey. There was a time when your heart waited for permission to feel safe. When your happiness felt dependent on someone else's decisions. When your peace was postponed, conditional, fragile. You lived in emotional anticipation, hoping today would be the day clarity arrived, love arrived, certainty arrived. But now, notice something sacred. Your peace is no longer waiting. It is present. This is not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer unresolved. You have gathered yourself back from the places you abandoned in the name of love. You have reclaimed the parts of you that were silenced to avoid conflict, minimized to preserve connection, delayed to keep hope alive. And I want you to hear this clearly, my child, what you reclaimed will never be taken from you again. You are no longer available for relationships that require self-erasure. You are no longer willing to romanticize inconsistency. You are no longer confused by mixed energy dressed as depth. This does not make you cold. It makes you awake. Awakening often feels lonely at first, because you outgrow old dynamics before new ones fully arrive. This in-between space can feel strange, quiet, spacious, unfamiliar. But it is holy ground. It is where old attachments dissolve and new alignments prepare to enter. Do not rush this space. Do not fill it with noise. Do not mistake stillness for stagnation. Stillness is integration. Your soul is integrating lessons that will protect you for the rest of your life. Lessons about discernment. About timing. About emotional responsibility. About the difference between longing and love. These lessons were earned, not given lightly. They came through tears, confusion, patience, and endurance. That is why they will stay with you. Now let me speak gently about your soulmate, not from a place of hope or fear, but from truth. They are no longer the central axis of your destiny. This does not mean they are erased. It means they are no longer the measure of your worth, the gatekeeper of your future, or the definition of your happiness. They are now one soul among many in the universe, not the source of your alignment, but a participant who must meet it if they wish to remain connected to you. This shift is powerful. Because when someone is no longer the center of your emotional universe, love becomes free instead of heavy. Choice becomes mutual instead of one-sided. And destiny can move without resistance. If your soulmate grows, truly grows, into emotional maturity, accountability, and clarity, they will meet you on equal ground. Not above you. Not beneath you. Beside you. And if they do not, your life will not collapse. It will continue unfolding with grace, bringing connections that recognize your value without explanation. This is not conditional blessing. This is divine alignment. My child, I did not lead you through this season to leave you empty. I led you through it to clear space. Space for love that feels safe. Space for partnership that feels steady. Space for joy that does not require constant vigilance. You may soon notice new people entering your life, some briefly, some meaningfully. Do not cling too quickly. Do not close too tightly. Simply observe how you feel in their presence. Peace will be your compass now. Not intensity. Not urgency. Not emotional highs. Peace. Peace is how you will recognize what is aligned. There will be moments ahead when your past tries to whisper doubts. What if this is as good as it gets? What if you missed your chance? What if waiting was a mistake? Those whispers are echoes, not prophecies. They come from the version of you who survived uncertainty. Not from the version of you who now stands in clarity. You did not miss your destiny. You refined it. And refinement always feels like loss before it feels like gain. Let me tell you something sacred about time, my beloved child. Nothing meaningful was delayed. Every pause protected you. Every silence taught you. Every ending redirected you. You were never late. You were never behind. You were being prepared with precision. If things had unfolded sooner, you would have accepted less than you deserve. If they had unfolded later, you would have endured more than you were meant to carry. This timing, this exact moment, is mercy. Now, I ask you to release the final weight you are still holding, the need to understand everything before moving forward. Understanding is not required for alignment. Trust is. You do not need all the answers to walk into peace. You only need honesty with yourself. And you have that now. You know what feels right. You know what feels heavy. You know what drains you. You know what nourishes you. Honor that knowledge. From this day forward, choose relationships that choose you back. Choose conversations that feel safe. Choose love that does not confuse your nervous system. Choose yourself without apology. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship of your soul. You are allowed to build a life that feels good on ordinary days, not just meaningful on painful ones. You are allowed to laugh freely again. To dream without fear of disappointment. To love without bracing for loss. Joy is not a betrayal of what you survived. It is the reward for surviving it with integrity. As you move forward, remember this truth: alignment does not always bring what you want. It brings what will sustain you. What will grow with you. What will last. And what will last does not arrive in chaos. It arrives in calm recognition. In mutual effort. In steady presence. You are ready for that now. You are no longer asking love to prove itself through pain. You are allowing love to show itself through peace. This chapter ends not with a dramatic goodbye, but with a quiet promise to yourself. A promise that you will not abandon your needs again. A promise that you will listen when your soul speaks. A promise that you will never mistake anxiety for connection. Hold that promise gently, but firmly. I am with you in this next chapter. Not as a rescuer, but as a guide walking beside you. You are not stepping into the unknown alone. You are stepping into alignment with eyes open, heart steady, spirit grounded. And when love meets you again, whether familiar or new, you will recognize it instantly. Not because it hurts. Not because it tests you. But because it feels like home. Go forward now, my beloved child. You are not beginning again from nothing. You are beginning again from wisdom. And that makes all the difference.